Welcome, Lars Drudgaard from Copenhagen in Denmark to Witte TV. We are very happy that you are here and that we may listen to what they have done to you. And as far as we have heard, you are the first one in Denmark who is dragged into this. And there was quite recently, as far as I can understand.
Yes. For me it started, or I became aware of it in the beginning of 2009.
Yes.
So, yes. So, actually it started with a job application, or just after I sent a job application for the Danish military intelligence community.
Okay.
As a signals analyst.
What are they called in Denmark, the Danish military?
Forsvarets Efterretningstjeneste, or FE. And they do signals intelligence like NSA or military style sort.
Yes.
And they were actually looking for civilian technicians, electronics people.
And you are an electronic people?
Yeah. Well, so I have the background at least. Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't say for sure if it's related to that application, but it seems like a very strange coincidence. I sent off my application in 2009, January, and started to sense some surveillance, like just a sixth sense, and just telling myself.
You got a hunch?
Yes, a hunch and sort of like that, but you know, writing it off like, oh, it's just paranoia. Why would anyone have a look at you anyway? What's interesting about you?
Yeah.
So for some time I just wrote it off, and when I was rejected with this job application in February 2009, it was like I didn't make anything of it. Like I had passed 40 years at the time, so I thought it might just be, you know, my age or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But the strange thing is that the surveillance or the hunch increased in the coming month to very gradually. But I became very certain that I was under surveillance. And
can you give some points what your thoughts was or what happened?
Well, I thought my first point was just like probably this, you know, counter-terrorism, whatever. That's when someone went overboard or whatever. I don't know. You know, they're getting too crazy about doing it.
Did you see some people stalking you?
Not at that time. No, not at that time. But I did get a very slight sensation of hearing slander, sort of like people telling me stuff that at the moment I felt it was unrelated. It was like just an acute hearing, sort of making nothing of it. But in hindsight, it's like it seemed like a bit strange that my hearing would improve like that, because I'm also a sound engineer. So I do care a lot about my ears. And, but I didn't make anything of it at the time. And also I didn't make anything of it that I had what appeared to be a sting. It was like an insect bite right in the back of my neck in January 2009.
In January, mid-winter in Denmark, an insect bite?
Yes, it seemed like an insect bite of some sort, like a bee sting or something like that.
At home?
What?
At home?
Yes, at home. Just one night, you know, when I woke up, I had a bite like that, and it's like, wow, that's annoying, you know. But it didn't feel like much, but that.
Where exactly were the spot?
Yeah, that's the strange thing. It was like it was pretty much looking like the Matrix, and that's why I remember it, because it was like felt stupid, you know, having a mark just there. It was like it's just the most stupid, just center of the neck there. But the strange thing about it is that usually it would heal within a week or something like that. If it was an insect bite, but this one lasted for a month or more before it was healing. So it's very difficult to heal, and that's why I remember it, because I had it for so long. I didn't really think about it at the time or make anything of it at the time, but in hindsight again, it's like a strange coincidence.
And you have not been to a hospital or something like that?
No, not for 20 years at that time. So that was, quite strange.
Are there still marks visible from that bite?
not physical here, but I had some MRI scans done where you can see there is something at that point, but where it's natural. Or I can't say, I'm not a layman, so I can't say if it's what it is or what.
Yeah. And what happened next?
After that, I got very annoyed, sort of like during March and April, with the surveillance that became very clear, and I can actually hear people from on the starting to interact with when I moved around my apartment and stuff like that. They were
Here in another room, or?
No, an apartment upstairs. I can actually feel they were tracking me when I was moving around, sort of like, or interacting on when I was doing something. There was something going on just to counter that or to follow that or whatever. And that got very sort of like annoying. Again, I thought just might be the police, or they're just checking out, like. So let them check out, but it gets increasingly annoying. So at one point, sort of, I thought, oh, this has to stop somehow. So I started sort of like playing with them. And I started on the internet just downloading all kinds of shit and stuff like that to provoke them, have analyze this, like giving them a finger or something like that. So check this one out, check this one out, and so on. And I thought it was funny at that time, but it turned out to be a really bad idea, because it got to haunt me really big time afterwards. That's why I want to mention it now.
Yeah.
And then it increased further, and then I just disconnected entirely the internet in April, and just stayed off the internet for the rest of the part of my time in Copenhagen.
By free will, because...
Yes, I just unplugged it.
Yeah.
And then I started playing some computer games and doing stuff that I hadn't gotten around to, encrypting my hard disks and stuff like that. And then I saw basically it was a couple of boring months, like April, May, and just playing games. Have to.
2009.
Yes, 2009 still. And the last couple of days of May and the beginning of June, it all escalated, because during May I became very increasingly aware that mind manipulation was taking place. I could actually feel when I was in a fixed, still position, that they were manipulating my thoughts. Very subtle, but I could very intensely feel this was not my thoughts, they were put on me in some sort. And then when I moved, just slightly moving my head like that, it disappeared. And then it's like they had to track me again, and then it locked on, and I started. At the beginning the notion was very weak, but when I became more and more aware of it, I could actually feel them lock on. So a game of cat and mouse developed out of it.
In your apartment?
In my apartment. And it developed into sort of like a cat and mouse game where I tried to avoid it all the time, and they had to sort of track me again.
Could you give an example? What kind of thoughts?
It's just like directing my thoughts towards other things. It's just like, you're doing something, playing games or sitting on the rail, and all of a sudden, they try to force your thoughts in another direction.
That you focus on something else.
Yes, I sit and focus on something, and something, all of a sudden, they try to force you off that. And that's like a very unnormal, so that's why I sort of like, well, that is strange. Why does this all of a sudden appear? And usually you wouldn't make much of that if it wasn't for that tracking part. That when I moved, all of a sudden, just by moving my head, I was getting out of the beam or the interaction. And then it's like they had needed like 10 seconds, 20 seconds to sort of lock on, and then they were forcing the thoughts again in the same direction they wanted them to go.
Did you feel a difference in the temperature as well?
No. Not at all. But I sort of like, the beginning was like very, what is going on, and it sounds like incredible, and can't be. So I played sort of like for several days where I just moved around basically to make sure, absolutely sure that this was the case, that we were actually locking onto my thoughts, directing them and stuff.
Did you talk to anybody about it?
No. I kept my mouth shut until there. But then things got out of hand in a few days when I was absolutely sure. I was horrified. All I have ever heard of was a bit of this MK Ultra program from the 50s and 60s, and Manchurian Candidate, and thinking, what were they up to? What were their intentions with me? Were I going to be a patsy for some terror, false flag operation? Are they going to create a Manchurian Candidate, whatever? So I got very scared, enormously scared, and panicked. So I just had to get out of this area and move around.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I did that, and didn't sleep and move around all the time, another system was activated. It's called synthetic telepathy, it's called, or people refer to it as that,
mm-hmm.
where they actually can communicate with you via thoughts. And this turned out to be so I was on a death list or something like that, and they were going to kill me because I had found out about this manipulation.
Did they say so in the thoughts?
Yeah. I was now officially on the death list.
Was it the Danish language?
Yes, I started out Danish language.
What kind of accent?
In the beginning it was like 50-50 young people in the 30s, both girls and boys.
Mm-hmm.
And just, no special thing about it. It was like just common people, young people.
Mm-hmm.
And you get more and more scared, of course, so I had to avoid it. And I thought, what can I do? So if they want to kill me, I thought, I don't want to be killed. So the best thing I could come up with was, moving around, just staying around people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I sort of started walking around Copenhagen all the time and always staying where there are people in the hope that it wouldn't kill me in full public. And then I spent 3 or 4 days on that, basically sleep without sleep.
But you didn't tell anybody, you didn't contact the police?
Not I'm coming to that, but not at that point.
Yeah. So obviously you have been successful in hiding and not getting killed?
Yes, but at the time it was very credible, or it was made very credible by... We don't have death penalty in Denmark, but they kept saying it was like special cases and things just can't get out, so they had a special permit to kill me.
Horrible.
Yeah, and it's all about... I believed it at the time and I was horrified.
Did you answer them and say go to hell?
Yeah. Not at that time, but I was first baffled.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes.
And taking it serious. Not taking it serious would be stupid.
Of course.
So I just moved around and stick to my plan of only staying in public places like cafes and only moving to the central area of Copenhagen, where I just walked around and from cafe to cafe. And then I started actually staying unusually long time at every place, like hanging out for hours at one cafe or at a bus stop every time I went, hanging around a bus stop. And then noticing, as all connections had passed, there were still some people hanging around the same place who've missed all buses.
Oh, interesting.
And then I started developing, trying, whenever I had a hunch that someone physically was following me, or it's often referred to as gang stalking or stalking. But I had no idea of the name. I was just thinking of the intelligence community, and they were, having a looking after me. So I started looking people in the eye whenever I had a hunch, with this clear intent of "you're busted." And from the reaction of the person, you could actually tell if they were baffled or they were definitely in it.
I got the same experience when they chased me with the Estonia case.
Yes.
When I got a hunch that that's a guy spying on me,
Yeah.
I directly with the front of him in the eyes, and you could see the
yes,
reaction.
yes, and you can tell.
Yes.
You can tell if it's someone who's.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, of course, I knew there were people around me, and they were surveilling me physically as well.
When you moved around in town, did they follow you in the contact, or could you get rid of the contact?
No, I could not get rid of the contact at all. But it's like the physical was like independent from the actually from the audio part or the synthetic telepathy part. So I just basically had to move around and staying, but I was still going to work and to stay alive. But after 3 or 4 days, I had to give up. So I finally resorted to booking a hotel one night, so see if I can get to some sleep in a different place from home.
Yes.
So I was trying to find a hotel, and I was rejected everywhere until finally I found a hotel.
Rejected?
Yes, they were booked or full or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, but finally I managed to find a place, and I got a room and got up and tried to get some sleep. But then I got a hunch now they're coming. And I was scared to death, so I went out of the hotel room. I woke up and got out of the hotel room and down into a toilet down the hall. And then I could actually hear them coming and unpacking plastic for like 10 minutes, unpacking plastics and stuff like that, and dressing in plastic suits, and it was really scary. And
could you verify that visually? And
no visual contact at all. I just stayed very close and tried almost not to breathe. And all the time, sometime they just like 5 minutes they start packing again, disappeared. And then I got out of the toilet room there and quickly packed my stuff and got down to the cafe again around people. Obviously I couldn't get sleep there either. But I regard that as a physical assassination attempt, or an attempt for extraordinary rendition or something like that. But definitely a physical attempt on my life. And when I got down to the cafe, I just thought I'd hang around a bit, not to be who are those people. And then I noticed 3 Germans. And the strange thing about them, they were like young people in the 30s. And, they were talking German, and of course they had no clue that I was half German, so I could not understand every word of what they were speaking about. And they were basically unbelievable. When you know German and know how much accent, just like I have a lot of Danish accent in my English, Germans have enormously big accents to almost every foreign language that they speak.
That's right, yes.
But they were completely fluent in unbelievably many languages, like Russian, French, Italian.
Those Germans?
Yeah, they were 3 people. They were bragging towards each other with all the language skills, and completely fluent in all languages. No accent at all. That was very striking to me for German.
I agree. I'm German as well.
I just noticed them, and then in the back of the room, I noticed just all of a sudden some Latino-looking guy came down all dressed in black with a big black duffel bag and stuff like that. And I thought, whoa, that's a guy coming from upstairs now. So I decided it was time to leave, and then I got out and pretext of buying some cigarettes just up on the other side, and finally I got off. And at that time I had definitely had enough. And actually I forgot something. Before I booked into the hotel, I could feel I had to have a night's sleep, or I was just physically exhausted after 3 nights without sleep. So I went to the hospital, psychiatric hospital, and thought they have where you can just check in, express care or whatever. And then I asked for a sleeping pill, because I definitely needed 1 night's sleep. And they wouldn't hand me one, so I left again. And then I booked into the hotel afterwards. But now when I was getting out of the street of the cafe from the hotel again, then I thought, now I have enough. So I took a cab and wanted the cab driver to drive me to the intelligence service.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted an explanation, what the heck is going on. But I got something mixed up at that point. You know, he wanted to drive me out of Copenhagen to some far place, and I was convinced the intelligence place was in a certain place. So I basically forced him to drive me to that. But it turned out intelligence community had moved, so he just put me out of where there was only a police station at that time. So the taxi driver was actually right. The intelligence service had moved. But then I get into the police station and basically was asking him if he knew anything about me being surveillance, and I haven't slept for days. And he was not, and he could not tell me anything. He couldn't access anything. And even if he could, he was not allowed to tell me anything. But he recommended that I would write the chief of police in Denmark. He's very friendly, very nice police officer. So he think I should write the highest authority to get an answer. And then I asked him if I could sleep at the police station, if they would lock me up for the night. But unfortunately, he couldn't do that either. I have to do something criminal to be locked up.
So they didn't allow you to sleep at the police station?
No, unfortunately not. But that would have been nice, because then I would feel safe and would be able to get a nice sleep.
Yes.
But he couldn't do it. It was not physically possible for him.
Hmm.
So I had to leave again, and it was like in the middle of the night. I had to work in the morning, not too far from there. So I decided to go to my workplace and lock myself in and just sleep there, because if I fell asleep, I wouldn't get up again to work.
Totally exhausted.
Yeah, totally exhausted. So I just laid down on the couch on the reception there, so at least someone would wake me up when it was time to work. So and during that night, the period, there was actually something very strange happening. Also in the hotel, on the V2K, someone was using a synthetic voice. Usually, I can't distinguish the voices from ordinary voices, but one person had a synthetic voice, and most likely a foreigner, or I believe it's a US consultant or something like that.
Perhaps a computer?
And it's translation system. You know, they have translation systems that basically just translate directly but use synthetic voice to answer. And this person was very interested in two things. First, my knowledge of Tesla technology. I have been following it. Because I have this technical background, I'm a bit nerdish, and I love to study technical stuff and like this. So I've been following what was going on in the underground regarding Tesla technology in the field of energy and stuff like that, because I believe that might be interesting to see what develops.
Tesla, the great Croatian researcher, making the electricity in New York in the end of the 19th century.
I think he was it's just a very interesting field.
He was before his time.
Yes, many years. And they are actually, a lot of people are looking into his old things. He was written off as a kook back then, but a lot of his theories actually are valid. But I had not done experiments or done anything, inventions or discoveries regarding his technology. I was just following what was going on out of pure interest, to see where things are going in. And the second thing they were very interested in was an invention. I had invented a microphone that I was trying at the time to find partners to get it started, either to make a prototype.
This was before 2009.
Yes, it was like the year and 2 years before I've played with that, and finally now it's time to build a prototype and see if we can sell it off or manufacture it or whatever. And they were interested in that, basically, and that tells me that either this consultant was paid off by that mean, that basically getting whatever information he could use for as maybe as a payment for his help or whatever. That was basically in the hotel room. They was like completely drawing everything out of me. Of course, the Tesla, there was nothing useful, but the microphone, they got completely how it works, and all of the invention.
So they milked your brain.
Completely, yes. I was in a very scared and mood and stuff like that. I was a very easy victim at that time. But now back at my working place, the same synthetic voice was starting to talk a lot about aliens, and they were making a lot of weird stories, and it's all like trying to hypnotize me, get me in a state of like mental destabilization and stuff like that. And now they were coming up with alien stories, weaving them into the context and how advanced they were in technology based on their alien stuff. And that's why I actually believe that they were US personnel, because I consider the alien stories as a US myth, like basically like religion, but it's the only religion or myth that the US have invented themselves. So that's why I reasoned that they were. And in the morning there, when my colleagues arrived, they wake me up, and actually I looked like shit, so they could see immediately I was not fit for work. So they sent me off to my doctor and got me, you have to get reported sick and stay off for a while till you're fit again.
And then that is a doctor who is used to you, who knows you?
Yes, I was trying to get there to my doctor who knows me. But unfortunately he wasn't there that day. A young woman was there instead. And she was completely, I didn't like her at all. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue sky, she was asking me if I was hearing voices and stuff like that, and then it dawned on me, they're trying to get me committed to a mental hospital. But why else would she ask questions like that? Out of nothing.
Very strange.
Yes, and then it dawned on me that she was intelligence hired, and that's why my own doctor wasn't there, so they were definitely trying to, if they can't kill me, they're trying to get me committed to a hospital where they can do anything. Because if you get committed, you're stripped completely of your human rights, and you are, in Denmark, you're also deprived of any chance of getting an autopsy if you die in their care.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah. So there's no chance it would ever get out. It would be a perfect murder for the intelligence system. So I realized that, and I got away from her very quickly. And then, basically I went to, then I went out what to do next. So I went to see Amnesty International and another human rights organizations, and telling them about Henning. I've been hunted, they're trying to kill me, intelligence community. But they couldn't do anything. They handed me a list of lawyers. And yeah, I took that with me, and then I managed finally to get on a train and get to another island where my family lives, and stay with my mother for some time there to get some recreation.
What did your family in Odense say? Did you tell them anything?
No, actually I didn't say anything at all, because the story was so incredible and unbelievable that they wouldn't understand it. So I was just reported sick and had my sleeping disorder, told them. And of course I had to get my doctor to sign that I'm sick, so I had to call him from Odense and get my real doctor. And he just signed that I had a sleeping disorder, and I had to see him within some few days.
Did he give an explanation about that girl?
So she was practice becoming a doctor or something like that. But then I went to see him. I'll just take it in the right order. Yeah. And then, but I didn't tell my family anything for very obvious reasons, because the story was just so far out that I thought no one would believe it anyway. So I just laid low, and I had told them I was stress related, and I hadn't slept for days. was taken very well of, and yeah, then I finally managed to get a night's sleep. For the first, that was good. That was a really relief.
2 days.
What?
You slept 2 days?
Yeah, I slept a long time, yes. Not 2 days, but I got a good night's sleep, yes.
Yeah.
And the following days, it really increased. They started to use a lot of psychological things, like it's referred to as NLP. It's hypnosis based. They started to really use that voices to induce hypnosis, and use what is called NLP programming, and just also to get me to be able to manipulate me and get me in a trance-like state where they can tell me anything, I'll believe anything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was horrible. That was like a month of torture that started from that point on.
Was it painful physically?
No. That's actually one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of people I've spoken to and met. Not met physically, but also I'm basically the only one who has had no physical pain at all. Mm-hmm. So that sets me apart a bit from the rest. But when they started to program. They were trying to weave that story into now it's like. Now the death threats were called off, and then they were death sentencing me again, and it was like a big bureaucratic thing, and two parties. It's like it turned out to be like two parties that are fighting each other now, and some tried to get me released, and the other party, good cop, bad cop, were trying to kill me, and then there was like that big bureaucratic fight. Does he have to be killed or not? And it was like shifting, like 5 times a day I was sentenced to death. And then I was pardoned again for
Did you still believe in it?
Yeah, because I was in a trance-like state, I did believe it, yes, at that point. I had to, I had no choice. But over time, of course, it became grotesque. Mm. And I realized, and also as I realized how much they were manipulating me. Mm. And actually, this became a month of torture, with, where they keep, they're trying to basically create a monster, where the use of anchors and it's part of the NLP, and they can actually interact with what you see, what you do, other people's reactions to you. And
NLP,
neuro-linguistic programming, I guess, but it's. Some places it's referred to as dark NLP when it's used in a dark spirit, or when they use it for bad bad intents. Mm-hmm. And I found out actually that by just taking one finger or just one part and stiffen it completely, and just then I could actually break the hypnosis. They were not able to hypnotize me in the same way as long as I had just here, but it became like really painful. I had to sort of basically hurt myself all the time not to be susceptible to their hypnosis and stuff like that. And yeah, and then they try to program you into everything you're not. Basically, make a monster sexually program you into everything you're not, and that's where the part where it haunted me, all the shit that I had put on them with the internet connection. It all came back to me at that point. And it was really some awful shit. I thought they should analyze at that point, but I thought it was funny. Now it's not so funny anymore at all.
No, of course.
And yeah, that was terrible. And now it's like, then it started developing a scheme of smoke and mirrors that where they tried to imply who was guilty, who was behind all this. And it basically moved around from everybody I ever known, colleagues to family to friends, and trying to put the blame on everybody I've ever known. But I didn't react to it, and I believe that they are trying to either isolate you from your surroundings, make you make false accusations about who's behind it, and also to just to if you say anything about it or try to confront people with it, you'll make a fool of yourself. And it's all about, from that point on, about psychology, where they're trying to make you look mentally insane, mentally disturbed, make a fool of you in any way possible.
And was it possible that they pinpointed all your acquaintances and people around you by a usual research, or was it because they had access to your memory?
They had access to my memory, or not my... I don't know if they have access to my deeper memory, but they can direct my thoughts, and they can basically... It was like an interrogation that lasted for a month. 24/7 interrogation, and you know, at some point they tried to, under the guise of a psychoanalyzing stuff, they basically started from my childhood and analyzed my entire lifespan.
And they asked you in your brain,
yes,
you answered. It was an intelligent response.
Yes, because you're tricked into this that now that's the good guys, good cop, bad cop. Now that's good guys, and you want to help them, and okay, what can we do for him? And it was like psychoanalysis sort of stuff, where they take your mind from childhood to present day. Mm-hmm. And the first time around I was fooled. So basically they know everybody I've been in contact with. And now they try to exploit that from one person to the next person all the time. Mm-hmm. They later on tried the same thing again. But now I was of course aware of it, that it was a trick, a trap. So I didn't go into it second time, but they were still forcing it. They can force you. It's like interrogations with this directed force. Forced interrogation by directing your thoughts onto a subject or content. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you get to the point they want to go, subject or whatever they want to know something about, they can loop. They use a feedback loop where they keep projecting the same. So you're stuck in a loop about that until they are satisfied. They want to get all the answers. Your thoughts go off in all directions until they're satisfied that they know everything about that subject. And over time I developed a system to break this system. And this sounds strange, but it's actually possible to build a firewall to your brain.
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
It's a biological computer. Yes.
So what I used is, a lot of the words they use, they are the first ones that come to your mind. So you just need one word that's unrelated to what they want to know anything about. And then focus hard on that word. So every time you feel that feedback loop, you can just focus on that word immediately. And
which is not connected to what they are
trying to look for. Okay. And as the loop goes on, you just focus more on that word. And they loop and they try to steer you back onto that, what they want to know and something about, and you focus about that word that's not related. It could be something like education, colleagues, anything. Nothing. It doesn't have to be any particular word, just unrelated to the subject. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus to break it in the beginning. But it becomes, over time, it becomes an automatic firewall. And now it's fully automatic in my case. So every time my brain, even before I sense it, goes into a feedback loop, a word comes up and it breaks it automatically.
Always the same word?
Yeah, no. It's just a word that is used recently in the V2 case. Usually it doesn't have to be, but that's what comes to mind.
Interesting.
Yes? That's just the first one. And you have to be quick. Find any word, and it's just basically the word that comes to mind is a word they use often. It's like everything they... So you can break it, and you can program yourself this way to break it. So it breaks out. And now it's completely automatic.
That's
my brain senses by itself. But a
good tip for other lecturers
yes.
to imitate. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this way you can avoid this kind of interrogation. But it took me some months to learn it, and before it became fully automatic, because you have to entrain yourself.
Yes.
And they also use another way of like lie detection, truth detection, and it's basically by uploading pictures of places you haven't seen, stuff you haven't seen, and you can't do anything about it.
Even movies?
not movies. If in my case, it's only still pictures. They can probably upload. I don't know what their capabilities are. But in my case, it's only still pictures, and it's all about how you react to them. But I had seen none of them, so I had no reaction. It's not as hurtful as the other technique where you know they are trying to force your brain into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't found a way to break the other part yet.
Good.
Then I gradually developed to override this, not just using the physical by stretching here so you can't be hypnotized or trying to break the hypnotism, but also to override the V2K. I started to hear audiobooks a lot. Instead of reading books, just ordering audiobooks. And just basically having, it basically meant that I had
Smart.
I had MP3 players on me all the time and was just listening to that 24/7 or even at night. Just to override it and to, if I had to completely override it, I have to turn it up loud, and that's not a good idea.
You can't do sleep.
What?
Then you don't have a good sleep if it's so loud.
No, it's fine.
You get used to it.
Yeah, I can use it, yes. But, and you can use the context when you go to sleep, just have some positive thinking or whatever. If you're into whatever you want. But it helps because it overrides it, and it's just have to watch a little bit about the volume, not to hurt your ears. But with the MP3 player and having headphones on all the time, it's tough for the ears. And I can tell you as a sound engineer. So, I prefer having my ears destroyed instead of my brain, even if it's my profession. That's something I would advise people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it breaks their cycle. You get some input that's different from what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So you get off and it minimize their impact, basically. And that helped me a lot.
Good, congratulations.
Yes. But from then on, I spent a month in this interrogation, torture sessions, and that was basically the most horrible month I've ever, and couldn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, that's also horrible.
Mm. So, and eventually, as I was reported sick for several months, and my doctor couldn't just writing sleep disorder on it. I had to go to an expert, so I had to go to a psychiatrist. But he recommended one for me. And I was given the address, and I was scared to death, of course, of having to meet a psychiatrist again, because I knew what the intentions were. But it turned out he was a very nice man, and we had a chat about my life. I didn't tell him about it, and unfortunately he couldn't find out why I had a sleep disorder. So that was done fine.
Smart.
So, and finally then I decided I had to go back to Copenhagen to my apartment, but every time I got there it got worse. Mm-hmm. They were definitely trying to force me out.
And you hear it in the other rooms?
Yeah. So I was thinking, am I going back eventually to Copenhagen, or what am I going to do? Then I decided to quit my apartment, and then I had second thoughts, and I found another apartment, but it became worse every time I got to Copenhagen. Their sphere of influence on me was stronger there. Mm-hmm. So I finally decided not to move back to Copenhagen, and I moved to another city. And this, that's where I live now, and it hasn't stopped the system, but it's different.
Easier to cope.
Yeah, it's easier to cope with.
You had some plans to move again.
Yes, then I finally decided to move to Aarhus, but I would like to sort of just tell about a few more things about what I discovered when I was living in Odense at my family's place for a few months while I was reported sick. I worked out their working schemes, like when they had shifts, crew shifts, and then I decided to minimize the impact they have on me. They were having shifts at 7 o'clock in the morning, And then I managed to get some sleep like from 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning till, and then I slept late just to get 2 crews to minimize the impact. So that was just one of the strategies, and it seemed to help also, because they have to start over. So like I don't know where the crew before had come to. So that was also something if you can work out when they shift.
Yes, smart.
And of course, it's all about, they're trying to get you to commit suicide. That different, and there's definitely a pattern. And it's the script where it appears when you read on the internet that basically most of the TIs are going through the exact same script. Starts out with
TIs, targeted individuals,
yes, the victims of mind control, and it all seems all to start out with sleep deprivation, and through various means. But sleep deprivation is the first part of it. Then they try to confuse you, and they try to gang stalk or stalk surveillance, make you aware of the surveillance, and put the blame on everyone in your surroundings. So it's all designed to make you make false accusations against people, and to make you look like a fool, and to undermine your credibility as a person.
As usual with those guys, false flag.
Yes, that's exactly, and they try to completely undermine your credibility in anything you say. So it's all about being aware of that and not saying anything. So what I basically did for 3 months is I said nothing. Good. I was the silent man for 3 months.
Good.
I was just nursed by my family, and they were of course worried that they have a silent man who was just basically sitting in the garden, watching. And they of course became worried about it, but at the same time I didn't feel like it would be a good idea to tell them. So that's it's better to say nothing than to make extreme reactions and false accusations and stuff like that. You have to realize that what it aims at, and never to give in to what they want. And also they seem to very much want to commit suicide, that your situation is hopeless and the torture is going to continue forever. But then you have to make up your mind as well. Sort of like, why should I commit suicide? I might as well fight them to death. And I made up my mind, and so have others, that I'm going to fight them until I die. And that's a decision you have to make at some point. And we have to do it actually by explaining the things, explaining the countermeasures of what we can do, and to work together to expose them. And to make people aware of how many there are. There are thousands.
Yes, or more.
Yeah, probably more. Some estimate 30,000.
A lot of guys locked up in the psychiatric clinics.
Yes, that's also one of their goals, because as soon as you get locked up, you're deprived of every human right there is. And people, even if you die in systems like Denmark and stuff like that you can't even get an autopsy, even, or family can't. There's organizations forming in Denmark that want to have autopsies for their deceased family members who have been in psychiatric care and stuff. And this, of course, all to hide experimentation and stuff like that. And it's horrible in itself. But I think very few people will ever understand how horrible it is. So you just have to explain it like it is, and then hope for that. But finally, I decided to move, to a city called Aarhus, because I lived there before I moved to Copenhagen, and it was the last place where I've had a good life before I went to Copenhagen, and so I decided to move up there to some friends and stay there. That's where I live now. That's good.
Did they try to stop you?
Yes. They wanted me very much. It was like they were ambivalent. It was like this two good cop, bad cop situation again. One part of them wanted me, absolutely, I had to go back to Copenhagen to be within their jurisdiction and stuff like that. And the other part, I had no reaction to it, but they absolutely wanted me to go back. But at the same time, every time I did went back, it get worse. So it's like they were contradicting themselves, like they fight me even harder when I get there, but at the same time they want me to go back. So I decided I'm not going back, finally. And when I managed to get to Aarhus, it didn't stop at any point there, but it was nice with the change. But actually the system, now they've moved very much into this NLP stuff and programming. And specifically now they concentrated a lot on they went a bit away from the part with the interrogation parts. Now they basically had interrogated me from A to Z, and they were not able to find anything illegal, criminal on me in my past, nothing they can use anymore against me. So that was one of the goals. They had to find something that would justify their treatment, and they have found nothing. There is nothing to find. So now they concentrated on trying to make me look mentally ill or to get me committed. And then they developed a strategy of over a year where there was some month where I was just keeping on and trying to work out as I developed my countermeasures, how to react to it. And eventually they started focusing a lot of the NLP programming, where they put in flags or and where you react to stuff. And then it culminated when they started to program aggression, spontaneous aggression, to get me violent in some way, so they would be able to get me committed or something like that. But
it's also usual stuff, I think.
Yes, but they was really horrible. You know, all of a sudden you meet face a person and you get this extreme aggression built up, and they want you absolutely to kill this person.
Did they say it in the voice?
No. They can manipulate all your feelings, emotion, thoughts. So it's just like an instant, like a complete aggressive to an old friend, a child, whatever. And they wanted me to kill this person or child or whatever, whoever I was facing. And luckily, I have a very I don't react impulsively to anything. That's lucky for me, and especially for those I met. And also, I have very good I can control my emotions.
Yes.
So I managed to stay clear of hurting anyone. But this then turned out to a major battle between the good cops and the bad cops, who over the jurisdiction, and eventually the good cops won this battle, and I guess it's because of this what it would be of collateral damage if innocent other peoples would have to die to get me committed. And now the bad cops have completely disappeared. Now it's only the good cops. But they seem to be very restricted in what they can do. So now it's basically just an information campaign there where they have no clue what to do anymore. It goes on, it's about like they have no clue how this is going on, just like I don't have no clue how it's going to continue.
And you are not free yet?
I'm not free, no. They're still trying to control my mind, but it's not the bad part of dark NLP programming does not appear anymore. So they're not trying to mentally destroy me anymore. They're not trying to induce violent aggressions and any sexual programming and stuff. This has all stopped.
Good.
So in a part, I'm partly free.
Did they try to stop you to come up to Stockholm to White TV?
No, not at all. They tried to stop me sort of half a year ago when I was going to Thailand in my vacation. They were very unhappy about that. And that's actually shortly after they've stopped, the good guys had won. The bad guys came back in and started up the system up again, because they didn't want me to go to Thailand, Cambodia, and other places, Vietnam like that.
How did they give you the information that they didn't like it?
They were absolutely. They just say frankly, we cannot allow him to go there.
And what do you answer?
I don't answer. I stopped answering. But yeah, there's communication between those people. They're fighting in the background. It's like a radio station you have on where they're fighting internally over what to do and not to do.
But you went to Thailand.
I went to Thailand, but when they turned the system on, I got pissed, and first time I ever broke my story and sent a mail out to the Danish Parliament, to Danish police and Danish intelligence.
When you came back
Danish
from
press.
Thailand?
No, before I went.
Before.
Now it had to stop. I was really angry, so I just sent it out to all Parliament members who were involved in law, in military, in ethics, and anything that could be related, and also all parties, and to the police, the local police, the chief of police, the intelligence community, and parts of the press. And the stunning thing was that's how I actually got into contact with Magnus, who replied on my mail that I sent out.
Which month was it about?
That was in November, the 20th or something, November of
2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Okay.
Yes, and it had actually stopped a few months prior, where it was only the good cops left, and then the bad cops came back, so to speak. But I got absolutely no response.
No response.
No response. I got I got 2 responses out of like 20, 30 Parliament members. 2 responses.
What
And
did
both of them were out of office. I got 1 response from one human rights organization. Unfortunately, they don't deal with individual cases.
Which one was it?
The Institute for Human Rights in Denmark.
But Amnesty didn't answer.
No.
They are controlled by the New World Order people, that's for sure.
Yes.
I'm always so disappointed about that.
Finally, both the Human Rights Organization and the police, finally the chief of police answered, but they both answered several months after I came back. It was like
month?
Yeah. It was like February, late February.
And
this was 2011.
What was the content?
From the Human Rights organization, it was like they don't deal with individual cases, and from the chief of police, they had read it and they had taken note of it, but didn't want to do anything about it, or could not do anything about it.
So the only substantial answer was from Magnus.
Yes. So that's basically where I am now. This situation.
Very interesting, very interesting.
But there seems to be a lot of going on in the background, and they don't really know what to do about it themselves. So I think we are close to having it break at some level. But they also that's the interesting thing. There's been basically only smoke and mirrors, and most of the information that comes through the system is smoke and mirrors and basically lies. But some of the information might be credible, and I believe that the group that is now putting information out might be more credible than the other. And there's a lot of interesting information at the moment. One of the informations is that the entire reaction force, whoever that may be, are involved, and they all face life imprisonment, which is a bad situation. Second information is that the US government will not allow a disclosure. Third information is that there's at some part is a doctor's degree has gone sour because of I didn't want to participate in this research program. And that's some of the one of the last informations that I think is credible is that I can never hold a job again. I'm not allowed to work ever again, because I compromise everyone I'm around. They can see what I see. They can hear what I see.
Did they say so?
They say so, and that's a major problem. That I can never go back to work again.
Then you start your own firm.
Yes, I am. That's what I'm planning on doing.
Okay.
But it's like if I can go into a company and work for them, whoever's listening in and looking in, they can compromise everyone I talk to, everyone I interact with, the company I might work for. And that's that's a violation as well. It's violations after violations of the human rights and everything. But this one is particularly Article 23.
But I think one should found and formulate a new article for the mind control problem, because it is not really dealt with in a good way in the legal texts.
Yes. So of course it's at the moment it's like a charade. I'm unemployed. I have to show up. Have to report that I'm fit for work, and I have to even go to job training courses and stuff like that. But if the information is correct that I cannot hold a job, it's like a big charade, big farce.
Another question. Suppose we are in court now. What would you prefer to take as evidence for a judge, for a court, that cannot look into your brain and that is not so informed as I am about the stuff?
What I think is the most credible information?
Yeah, the best evidence that you are not making it up.
Yes, the best evidence is that it appears to be that the majority of victims have the exact same story, and that's very unlikely.
Right. That's why we are collecting the witnesses now.
Yes, exactly. It's very on a minute level. Of course, it's tailored to your personality and your life, but it's like everything is in exactly the same order, and it's like the same steps that are going to harassment and torture. Actually, some people call it harassment, but actually, I think it should be called torture. It is torture.
I agree totally. Yes.
And that's I believe is the strongest evidence.
And in my eyes, evidence is also that your family and acquaintances can confirm that you suddenly had a strange behavior. You were silent.
Yes, I just became the silent man.
You got a zombie because you didn't go to sleep, and there was no other reason. This psychiatrist could not give any diagnosis because you didn't tell. And obviously there was something.
Well, things were getting better at the time, so I was just reported sick for another month. So that's fine. And then when I moved, I was fit for fight again. So no.
And then it's a kind of credibility. What impression you give to the people you talk to.
Yeah. And it's all about credibility, and they're trying to undermine it and try to make you look foolish, sick in some ways.
Would like to add something more to the audience?
People have to take it seriously, and I would actually like a lot to study it. There's a lot of information out there. No evidence, but there's a lot of research information out there. There's a lot of facts out there. There's a lot of testimonies out there.
Associations, groups.
Yes. And also, I would like to have the press take this seriously. If some serious journalists could take this seriously and bring it up nationwide somewhere, that would be a great help.
That would be very good.
Yes.
Yeah. As the New York Times did in the 70s.
Yes. And also, it's very important just to get to know at least a little of it and know the places where you can find some information about it if it should ever happen to you or someone in your surroundings. So you can refer people. Because I spent the first half year, or longer even, for the first half year I was completely demobilized. I couldn't do anything. I could not go onto the internet. I could nothing. So they completely demobilized me while I was sick. After that I was directed into, because of the background of my application, I was looking basically only into intelligence community and things like that, researching that part of it and military things, and it gave very little result. But in recent months I've looked a lot into neuroscience and research going on there, and DARPA research into neuroscience and the military aspects of that, and that has yielded a lot of results. So this is the place to look, not look up intelligence, really, because they keep the things very tight.
Have you any clues what kind of intelligence agencies could be involved?
I would say NSA. There's a lot of it's very different in the US. It's the only country that has full capabilities and where people are acknowledging that they are researching. They're acknowledging that they are researching into this and spending billions on it. They're not acknowledging that they actually use it, of course. But I would say the US is the only country that has the full capability with satellite. But a lot of NATO countries, and especially Denmark, a place like Denmark, Germany, and so on, they are close allies, and the intelligence communities are very tightly knit group, much tighter than people believe.
Yes.
And they have been privatized. In the US alone, it's estimated that 80% of all intelligence work is privatized in the US. And this also gives a very big problem about how about this? Are they franchising some of this for research, this intelligence tools? Are they financing covert operations through this kind of research where they use intelligence money on that? But there are different, it points to different, to get back to your answer, this points to different intelligence communities in the US. The military one would be the US Air Force, because they control the satellites that are used, NRO and so on. NSA would be a candidate because they take a lot of the agency would be a candidate because they manage all this, and it's the sort of like the part I filed my application to in Denmark, the Danish counterpart of that. And they, of course, have a very closely ties with the UK-USA agreement, also more commonly known as the echelon system. There, Denmark is tied into that. And the torture and the psychological methods, although CIA has no actual big-time satellite capabilities or claim not to have it, all the psychological aspects of it are clearly an indication of CIA. So it's CIA-based, at least. It's all based on CIA psychology, torture methods, and they have been devised since the Second World War, where they got it from the Germans. So it's yeah, and also Auschwitz and Dachau in particular, where it all started. That's the places, and it's the torture procedures are so obvious, CIA. But it points toward a broader, that the intelligence communities are broader, tightly knit than people believe in general.
In my research, the Mossad shows up every time when mind control is involved.
Okay. Something that is... I've actually just discovered that they're starting to spend billions on neuro research in Israel. But it's only within recent years. So I don't know if... I expect that that's the reason why they're spending billions on it now, that they're going to use it for military and intelligence purposes. They do very little else.
Did you sign...
But it seems to be still... I believe it's more US related than Mossad related because they have started so late.
Did you experience some ties to Mossad in your case?
There were woven stories about an old friendship. I have a friend, Israeli friend, and stuff like that. It was woven into a sort of like fantasy histories of smoke and mirrors at one point, but no direct ties to Mossad like that. So there were, Israel was mentioned, Germany was big time mentioned. In particular, one of the torture sessions were this interrogation sessions. It was a very big problem that I had recognized these 3 Germans, and it was also a very big problem that I was very confident that it was intelligence. And they spent months on that issue, and that I was threatening me and so on. That posed a big problem for them. If it was not just smoke and mirror again. Yeah. So it's for me, it's like U.S., German, and Danish intelligence rather than.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, what I can.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
As usual, I would like to ask the audience: are you sure that you are not mind controlled? Goodbye.